My name is Grace, and this is my July reading wrap-up. I would like you to ignore a couple things in this video. One is how late it is. Two is the way my hair looks. It's a little gross today. Three, it's about to start thunderstorming, so if you hear that, that's what that is. And four is that my dad is upstairs watching TV, and if you can hear that, that's what that is. I live in the basement of my house, so sometimes you can hear people like walking around and stuff, and that's what that is. Okay, so let's just jump right in. I read 10 books this month. I don't have all of them with me because two or three of them are ones that were like loans from people, and then one of them is a novella that's like in one of the books, and it's pretty good. I feel good about that. That's like where I would like to be at every month. That's just what like feels good to me, and that's like the first time that's happened this year because the first half of the year was like really busy for me, so hopefully I can stick with that and do that more. Let's get into it. Well, I have some stats. I have everything written down here, all my information, but so my stats are I read a total of 3,214 pages this past month, which I don't actually know if that's a lot or not. Most of the books I read were like relatively short, so I don't really know if that's a lot or not, but according to Storygraph, which is linked in the bio, that is how many pages I read. I read 5 romance books, 2 just like general fiction, 1 fantasy, 1 nonfiction, and 1 graphic novel. We started off very strong this month. The first book I read was Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. This was a 5-star read for me. It is one of my favorite books I read this year, and it's definitely my favorite book I read in July. It is so good. I tabbed it. This is also like the first book I've ever fully annotated because I started listening to it on audio because I heard that the audio was really good, and it's narrated by Meryl Streep, which was really cool. And then I literally was like, I listened to a chapter of it and I was like, I want to highlight some of this, so I'm gonna just like buy the physical copy and annotate it, and that's exactly what I did, and it is so good. It's basically a woman who's like telling a story to her 3 daughters. She's telling a story of when she used to date this like famous actor before he was famous, and it's just so good. It's so like, it's slice of life in storytelling, and I understand that it probably wouldn't be for everyone, but I love those types of stories. It's very like reminiscent of like Fried Green Tomatoes, which is my all-time favorite movie. Okay, this is one of my favorite sections of it. There is no explaining this simple truth about life. You will forget much of it. The painful things you are certain you'd never be able to let go, now you're not entirely sure when they happened, while the thrilling parts, the heart-stopping joys, splintered and scattered and became something else. Memories are then replaced by different joys and larger sorrows, and unbelievably, those things get knocked aside as well, until one morning, you're picking cherries with your 3 grown daughters, and your husband goes by on the gator, and you are positive that this is all you've ever wanted in the world. It's so good. I want everyone to read it. It's so good. No other book in July could top this, even though I did have a very good reading month. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but I had a really good month, and most of these books are like 4 stars. This was such a strong note to start off on, and I loved it so much, and it was so good, and I want everyone to read it. It's so good. Read that book, please. Okay, next I actually picked up Heartstopper, the 5th book in the series. If you don't know what this is, it's a graphic novel. It's also been turned into a TV show, but I have yet to watch the TV show because I've heard you also have to read a couple of Alice Oseman's like other works, because I think all of her books connect to this series, but this I believe is her most popular. I ended up reading this a 4.5, I think. It's just so cute. She does a really good job. Does Alice Oseman use her pronouns? I really like this series. I think it's so like cute and easy, and it's just really fun. Alice Oseman is able to talk about like serious topics in a way that is not cringy to me. Like, they're able to have like a cute little love story, which I think I would consider YA, but like maybe more like upper YA, but definitely not like new adult. Able to connect it all and have like a cute story and also have like serious topics be talked about. I would check the trigger warnings. Especially like the later books in the series, I would look at some trigger warnings. I'm very excited for the 6th, which I believe is the last book. I really recommend this series. Just really cute, like lighthearted, easy read. So yeah, I would definitely pick Heartstopper by Alice Oseman up if you haven't read it. I know that you're supposed to read, I think, all of Alice Oseman's other books, and I've heard they're really good, but I don't know like if there's like an order, so if you know anything about that, let me know, because I don't know anything about that. So the next book I read was Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. It's part of the Throne of Glass series. I feel like everybody knows this series, so I don't really feel like I need to explain what the series is. I gave this I think I originally gave it like a 4.25. and probably would lower it to a 4, which is still good. It was good. It took me like a long time to get into it, I have to be honest. Like the first 150 pages, I was not invested in the story at all. And then it kind of started to turn around and like I really liked it towards the end. Excited to read this book because I've heard everyone say like the first 3 books in the Throne of Glass series, which would be Throne of Glass, Assassin's Blade, Crown of Midnight, are not super interesting, and I could agree with that. I wasn't super invested in those books, but I was excited to read this one because I heard that once you read this one, you're like way more interested in the series. And I would agree, but I'm still not like super obsessed with this series. And I don't know if it's just like, am I just like missing something, or is it just not like a series for me? I definitely will continue it, but I'm not rushing to continue the series, also because I want to read other books on my TBR right now, and I don't have the rest of the series. I don't have those, so I'm not gonna rush to read them because I want to read other books on my TBR. And also I'm just like not super invested in this series yet, but yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on that. The next book I read, I actually don't have. My best friend Luke and we do this like book exchange thing where we give each other a certain amount of books each month that we want the other person to read that we've already read. And so usually it's 3 books, but it actually took me June and July to read the 3 books he had given me for June because we ended up traveling a lot in June. So one of the books he gave me that I didn't get to until July was Big Swiss by Jen Bijan, I think is how you say her last name. I gave this book a 4.5. It was really good. If you don't know what it is, it's honestly hard to explain what this book is about. It follows a character named Greta, and Greta is kind of like, she's in her mid-40s. She hasn't really ever held like a super stable job. She's living with this older woman. She just got out of like a super long-term relationship. She's kind of a hot mess, and then she is a transcriber for a sex therapist in this new town that she's living in. And she obviously like is like bound to confidentiality because of this, but she ends up meeting one of the people that is like a patient for the sex therapist that she works for, but she doesn't tell her, and it's like kind of a whole thing. It's really interesting. It's really weird. It's not really a book for me, it wasn't a book I could like sit and binge read, which I really like to do. So it was kind of hard to get through it, but not because it was bad, just because it was like kind of a lot. I remember everyone was like, oh, this book is so funny. I personally didn't think it was super funny, but I did think it was interesting. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5, and I do plan on buying a copy. I like took pictures of the copy I was reading while I was reading it, so I could like, when I buy it, I can like go back and highlight things, because it was really interesting, and there were funny moments, but I wasn't like laughing out loud. Like it wasn't super funny to me, in my opinion. Then the next book I read was Picking Daisies on Sunday by Liana Senkati, I believe is how you say the author's name. I ended up giving this a 4 stars. It was really cute. Like it was, I tabbed it, you can like barely see it. It was really sweet. I believe this is indie published. yeah, it's an indie published book. I saw this on TikTok like a couple months ago, and I actually got this for Christmas from my mom. I put it on my Christmas list, and it's just a cute little romance. There's no smut, so if you're not into smut, like, I think it would be really good for you. It's really innocent and sweet. I would recommend it. I think it's really cute. A 4 stars is probably like a little generous, but I'd probably keep it that way because it was really fun, and I think I literally read this in like one sitting. The guy is really sweet. The girl is really sweet. Like they're just really cute. It's fake dating, childhood friends to lovers, also kind of second chance romance. They like get a second chance at being friends, which leads to them being in love. It also takes place in New York, which I didn't know until reading, and I love New York. Definitely like a good like spring summer romance. Both of the characters in this are like both like golden retrievers, and they're just so sweet. Like they're just so like I want to give them both a hug. They're so cute. I would definitely recommend it, and I also love supporting small authors, like indie published content, and yeah, I'd recommend it. It was really, really sweet. I read Off to the Races by Elsie Silver. I'm trying to read all of Elsie Silver's backlist. I read the whole Chestnut Spring series, and then I read Wild Love, which I loved. And then they're re-releasing the Gold Rush Ranch series, which is actually her first ever series. It takes place technically before the Chestnut Spring series. I'm trying to go back and read them as they're publishing them, because also the spines, I'll show you in a second, but the spines will like line up, and I'm just a sucker for that. So, and I think the covers are really cute. I would give this a 3 stars. It was a little disappointing because I love the Chestnut Spring series and I loved Wild Love. You can tell it's definitely like her first work, which is fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that, but it just definitely is not as well written as Chestnut Springs. Like grumpy, sunshiny kind of, well, I mean, she's not even like sunshine. It's definitely like rivals to lovers. It's boss employee, so like kind of workplace romance, except they're on a farm, so it's like not your typical workplace romance. I will say though, like what rubbed me the wrong way about this book and the next is that it's supposed to be like kind of like grumpy, like the men are kind of gruff and not super nice, which is similar to her other books as well. But in these, I feel like they're not just like grumpy, but they're just like assholes. Like they're not nice people. The girl in this book also kind of irritated me too a little bit. I hate to say it, but she really did. It was also a lot shorter because the second, like where I stopped tabbing, like this is a novella. So like it was pretty short compared to, I feel like the Chestnut Spring series books are like a lot longer. That is a little bit unfortunate. And then next I read Out of the Gate, also by Elsie Silver's, also in this series. It's like the novella that's at the very end of this. There's a cover for it that's cute. I'll pop it up, but you can't like buy that on its own, I don't think, which is kind of unfortunate because I totally would. I did not like that one. I gave that a 2 stars, and that was a generous rating. I did not like that, and part of it is because since it was a novella, it was it's a prequel novella, so it actually takes place before any like this book and this series. It takes place like decades before. It's about the grandparents of the guy in this. I mean, realistically, a novella is not going to get any higher than a 3. There's an age gap in it that I really thought was kind of uncomfortable in my opinion. And there's an age gap in Powerless, also by Elsie Silver, but that one is not as bad to me because I think also they have more time because it's a full-length novel, so they have more time to like give it more context. But I did not like this one. I thought the girl was so insufferable. I just did not love Out of the Gate. It was 2 stars for me, and that was really being kind. Then I read another book I don't have a copy of because it's another one that my friend Luke gave me, but it's Him by Elle Kennedy and Sabrina Bowen, I believe. They collaborated on this book, and I think it's a whole series actually. This is a MLM hockey romance. Luke gave this to me because I gave him Icebreaker a couple months back, and he said that this was payback for me making him read Icebreaker. I gave it 3 stars. It was entertaining, but I didn't love it. Well, one, you can tell it was written in 2015. Like you can for sure, like I didn't even have to look it up to know it was written in 2015. One of the characters is bi, But then there was like a little bit of like biphobia from the other character in my opinion, which I did not appreciate. I don't know, it was kind of weird, but like I thought the couple in itself was like really cute with each other. I just didn't appreciate like some of the other aspects of the book. And then also I felt like their romance was a bit forced, but I think that's also true for a lot of romance books, so it was fine. And it was still 3 stars because it was entertaining, and I mean, it was a really fast and fun read. It just wasn't my favorite. Okay, then I read my nonfiction book this month, which I usually like to read a lot of nonfiction. I think that's actually my favorite genre. But I only read one this month, unfortunately, but I really liked the one I did read. It was I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness by Austin Channing Brown. This is it's such a short read. It's like less than 200 pages. You could literally read this. I've literally read it in like one sitting. I really recommend it. I don't have a rating for it because I don't really rate nonfiction, but it was so good. One of the things I really liked about it is she talked a lot about, well, one, her name being Austin Channing Brown, and how like every time she would like apply for a job or like put her name anywhere, people always expected her to be a white man, and she was a Black woman, and just how that affected her. She also talks a lot about like her faith and racism in like faith-based organizations. I think everyone can benefit from reading nonfiction, and I think that that's really important. And I think there's some things going on in social media right now that I'm not going to talk about, but all I'm going to say is I feel like some people need to read some books. I'm going to see if I can find like a good quote that I like. This is why the word racist often offends nice white people so deeply. It challenges their self-identification as good people. Sadly, most white people are more worried about being called racist than about whether or not their actions are in fact racist or harmful. But the truth is, even the monsters, the Klan members, the faces in the lynch mob, the murderers who bombed churches, they all had friends and family members. Each one of them was connected to people who would testify that they had good hearts. They had families who loved them, friends who came over for dinner, churches where they made small talk with the pastor after the services. The monster has always been well-dressed and well-loved. There's a lot of stuff going on in social media right now where you can tell that people are more worried about being called out for being racist and not about the fact that their comments are racist. You see that a lot with when people's apologies are like, I'm not racist, I know I'm not racist. And they're just trying to like reassure themselves more than others that they're not racist, and they're more worried about being called that than whether or not their actions have actually hurt people. I recommend reading this book. Okay, and then the last thing I read, this kind of like goes back to Off for the Races, is a photo finish, also by Elsa Silver, also in the series. I liked this a bit more, but I hated the guy. He's such an asshole. This is also 3 stars for me. It was nothing special. Even though this series takes place before the Chestnut Spring series, I'd recommend starting with the Chestnut Spring series because it's better. You're not getting spoiled for anything. They're pretty separate. You do get introduced to some of the characters in Powerless, but like very briefly. I feel like if I had read this series first, I wouldn't have even picked up the Chestnut Spring series because I don't really like this series so far. Sorry, I'm burping. I don't really like this series so far in comparison to Chestnut Spring series. Like I feel like I liked that one pretty immediately, and this one, it's like taking me several books to get into. I mean, I've already read 2 books and the novella, and I didn't really like any of them. Hopefully it turns around, and I will still be reading them just because I really like Elsie Silver, and I want to be able to say that I wrote her backlist. Okay, this is what I was talking about with the spines. Like, they will eventually connect. I think the next one's gonna have like a horse, and they're supposed to release before the end of the year, so hopefully they will. All right, that is my July reading wrapped up. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm sorry that it's late. We actually managed to beat the rain. It didn't actually start raining like I thought it was going to. It was really windy earlier, so it's honestly surprising. I hope you guys were able to find some good recommendations. I hope that you enjoyed. If you guys have any thoughts about any of these books, if you have any recommendations based off of these books, if you have any questions, please let me know. Yeah, that's all I have to say. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a good day, and yeah, bye.